to Sherry's Kitchen. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Sherry. But some people call me Nana and some people call me Mama D. So, come on in. You're welcome at my kitchen. All right, today we are going to venture into a new topic that most of you are interested in, and that is called food storage. Today we live in a time where food shortages are happening, the price of food is there, and so also some of you are gardening and you have all this food coming from your garden and you want to be able to store it so it lasts longer in your refrigerator. So today we are going to be talking about food storage, and the first thing we're going to talk about is short-term food storage. All right, so before we start our actual demonstration of food storage in short term, let us look at the things that are enemies to storing food. The first one is going to be air, oxygen. And I'm going to show you some tips on that. The next one is light. Number 3 is temperature. Number 4 are pests. Number 5 is moisture. And number 6 is time. Now, we won't be covering all 6 of these today. The first thing we're going to start off with is air and oxygen. So let's get started. All right, so because we're dealing with eliminating some of the enemies of food storage, I'm going to introduce you first to some of the tools that we use. And the first one, some of you may have or may not have. They have all different kind of models, all different types of sizes, but they all basically work the same. And that is the Food Saver, okay? And on the Food Saver machine, it has another attachment. This one comes built in, but with some of them you can buy an external part and have a cord running from your Food Saver to the food product. So that's just one tool, but you may not have that tool right now. So you can also get a small vacuum sealer, and this one is very good, especially for short-term storage. Also, I have a little pump here I got when I bought my fermentation kit. This came with it, and I'll show you how I use that too. That's another thing that you can use. And then there is another, this is called a brake bleeder. It's not meant for food storage, but you buy a brand new one, and you actually can use it to get the air out of the jars that you are trying to seal, okay? So we're going to talk about that also. Now just suppose you don't have any of those things. Well, you may have saw this trick before, a bag and a straw, and I'm going to show you how we do that also, okay? And some of the containers that we use for short term are, let's say you have leftovers and you want to get some of the air out to help them last longer in your refrigerator. We have those. We have also different bag sizes. Now this is the newer Food Saver bag. They're much more sturdier and they last a lot longer. You can reuse them over and over again. So we're going to talk about those. And then we have the older model of the Food Saver bags. You can get these easily in the grocery store, especially in the Walmarts or Target, okay? And I'll show you how to use those. And let's say you have a larger amount of food that you need to refrigerate. Here's another type of a container also, and that could be used also for leftovers. I actually use mine for salads. I can make enough salads for 3 to 4 days. Now, yes, when you cut things, you do lose nutrients, but to avoid not getting my salads, this holds it very good, and I don't get any rotting or any where they look like they're going wilty or stuff like that. And it lasts me at least 3 days for this size container. Okay? So we're going to get into all of those one at a time so you can better make your decision of what you have to use to store your food. There are so many ways to take air out of your storage of jars or bags, but I'm just going to show you what I have and what is available that I know of, okay? So we're going to start off with something simple. Let's just say you have none of these, but you do have a straw and a Ziploc bag. So we're going to seal up an avocado. When I eat avocados, I only eat half. And so we're going to do half of an avocado. Now this isn't the perfect way, but it does help, okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to seal it up and leave a hole opening as big as the straw head. So we're going to stick this in here and bring it all the way to the corner and seal it up. And this is going to be a lot of sucking because this is a big bag. You don't have to use this big of a bag, but that's all I have right now. Okay? And so, like I said, it's not going to get it all the air out, but if this is all you have, it's going to help. Okay? So let's just see. Now I'm not going to blow in, I'm just sucking out like a vacuum. Okay? So let's give it a try. All right, so we have most of the air out, as you can see, and hopefully it'll last you till the next day. That's when I would normally use it. But that's just one way of doing it. It takes a lot of breath, so it's up to you, okay? Let's look at another way that I do it. That's simple. I'm going to take the avocado out, and we're going to use one of the Food Saver bags. Like I said, this particular model you can buy in your grocery store, in your plastic where they sell, food storage things. And so we're going to use this one here. And on this model, they have a little circle here, and that is what you put the tool to draw out the air, okay? So now we're going to put our avocado in here. Make sure you zip it up very good, because if there's any air getting through, it will not seal. So I usually zip it up, and then I take my thumb and push it between the two seals here to make sure that it's good and tight. Now I'm going to use this here. Now this particular pump, I came with my fermentation kit. And I just so happened to try it, and it worked. But this is the kit that I had gotten it with, purchased it with. And inside here is all this equipment comes, and it comes with this. And so this is what I'm going to use now. So you can get this on Amazon, or you may have it yourself. And they also have another separate one that's for mason jars. So they're coming up with things now that are very reasonable and easy to use. So take a look on Facebook and see, Amazon, and see if you can find it, okay? So let's look at how we're going to use this little pump to get the air out of this Food Saver bag. I'm going to take the round part, put it over that hole, and then I'm going to draw the air out. And if you don't center it right, and the air is slowly coming out. It takes a few more pumps, and you'll see the bag beginning to shrink up. And make sure you're holding it tight over that little hole, otherwise air will get in and it'll stop pulling out the air, okay? Alrighty, you see your avocado is sealed. And that's going to keep it from turning brown from oxidation in your refrigerator. Okay? Now remember, this is short-term storage. This is not going to last you months and months, okay? So now we're going to take it out, and I'm going to show you the Food Saver little tool. Same bag. I'm going to zip it up, same way. And I'm going to take this little tool. Now this particular tool you can get on Amazon for maybe $30 or so. And if you have Amazon Prime, you don't have to pay for extra shipping, okay? You can also get it from the Food Saver website too, okay? So we're going to put that now over the hole. And you're going to hold it down again, and you're going to press this button. No pumping, no sucking with your straw. Just have this little kit. Now this is battery operated. There's a little stand for you to charge it, okay? There we go. And again, it's sealed. Alrighty? Now you can also do this with the Food Saver machine because there's that attachment on it that can suck the air out also. But I'm trying to give you other options just in case you don't have the machine. So this is another way that you can seal your food in the refrigerator so it can last longer. Now, now this particular process is not to be used for canning food. That's a whole different story. No canning food for like in canning jars and things like that for long-term storage, like you do your fruits and your vegetables in jars. Now you will see that I do have things stored in canning jars, but this is not for canning. This is not food that I'm canning for long-term. This is like dry food. This is all food that doesn't have any moisture in it, okay? And cereals and things like that, and pastas. Okay, so we're going to look at those in a little while. Okay, so come on back. All right, let us look at some of the containers that FoodSaver has. Okay, I had some leftover zucchini that I, want to make sure I save it for later because food is so expensive. We don't want to have to waste anything. So this particular size container is good size for that. And on the top, there's a little gasket here that we're going to use from our, take our FoodSaver accessory and put that on there. It has to be oval to oval, okay? So we're going to do that for you. Now, when you turn it on, you should hear the sound getting louder and to know that it is actually sealing. So I'm going to press the accessory button and see what happens. And you should be able to let it go on its own. And so now you see the little dimple in the rubber gasket here. Now you know that is sealed. And you can take that, put it in your refrigerator, and it'll last you a couple days. Now remember, this is for short time storage, not the long term. Okay? So we're going to look at another particular container. All right, our next container is a little bit larger. This is the one, like I said, I use to put my salads in for at least 3 days, okay? And so this particular model, it has a green button here, and that you can change it from the open marinade mode. So if you're doing maize food, this is a plant-based show, so we don't do any of that, but you can do marinade tofu, okay? And this is the vacuum side. So there's a little dial here that you can turn, and we're gonna turn it to vacuum. Now there's a little dimple here, the same as the other particular model, and it's going to suck in when it's sealed, okay? So we're going to do that, making sure it's good and tight, making sure there's nothing under the seals that's going to keep it from sealing. And again, we're going to use our accessory from our FoodSaver machine. Again, this is oval to oval. But you also can use, if you're in a pinch, this will also take the round one. You see how you fit that on? And we can do it with that. But it takes a little bit longer, but just letting you know that you can use this model to seal this particular type of container. Okay? And so we're going to do that. We're going to put the oval one on, hold it down, make sure it's good and tight all around, and make sure you turn it to vacuum. Otherwise, I've done that mistake too, and I had it on the other side and wonder why it's not vacuuming. But make sure it's on the vacuum side, okay? Hit the accessory button. Sound is going up. And when it's finished, it'll pop off. Okay. Now on this model too, you know it's sealed by the little dimple is down. And then you just refrigerate it, okay? And this will keep your salad lasting a lot longer by taking out the air. But now in my salad, I only put the dry stuff. I don't put the soft stuff like the tomatoes and the avocados. But things like your onions and cucumbers and peppers, you can put in here and it'll last longer, okay? So let's show you the next thing. All right, so here's another FoodSaver container. Let's just say you bought a bag of, these are organic corn grits, and you have some left over. And you don't want to leave it in the original bag that it came in because that's not going to keep the air out. So I put the remainder in this size of container. Now they have all different sizes. And so I want you to notice that on the top of this, because it's grits and more of a powdery thing, I put a, this is like a coffee filter or a cupcake filter, and you put it on the top. And this keeps it from the powders going up into the sealer, okay? So on this particular model, make sure it's down. There's a rubber gasket on here. You have a little hole here, okay? And that hole, if you have a FoodSaver, this model, when you pull this out, you take this apart, and it's really tight. Okay, come on out. There we go. And there's a little stem here, and that you're going to put in this hole, okay? and that's going to pull the air out. Now, some models, they have an accessory that you have to buy. This is a separate type of a hose, and there's usually a hole on the machine and a hole that you put on the thing here, okay? But, so you determine which machine you have, what to use, okay? So now we're gonna look at doing the corn grits, okay? So here we go. There we go, and it clicked off. And when you pull this off, you should hear a little noise. Okay, you probably didn't hear. You hear it making a vacuum. Okay, and then you just wiggle the top. It doesn't come off, so it's sealed. So now you can put this on your shelf, and it'll last a lot longer. Okay, so that was your corn grits. And any kind of grain that you need to store, it's good to take the excess air out, and it'll last on your shelf a lot longer. Okay, we'll take the next item. All right, so now you may not have a Food Saver machine, but we have something that people are using all over now, a lot of places now. It's called the brake bleeder, okay? Now on here, you have the PSIs on it, and it goes from, you want to go from 0 to at least between 15 and 20, okay? And so how you're going to do that is you take this tip. Now this tip does not stay in place. You have to hold it. And then we're going to start pumping. And once it gets up to the 20, and you can even go higher, it won't hurt it, okay? And it's a lot of work on the hand, so if you have arthritic type conditions, you may have a hard time with this one, okay? But it's a very good one, economical one. If you go to places like Harbor Freight or anything like that, you can get them for maybe $30 or more, okay? And when you pull it off, you hear a vacuum, okay? So this is just another tool that you can use that's reasonable. And it's also good if there is a power outage and you need to seal things, or you don't have the power for whatever the reason may be, you can reseal them with this particular brake bleeder. Okay, so that's another option. Okay? Okay, so while we are using the hand pump and the machine, I'm going to show you a few more things. Now, when you buy cereal, it comes in a box. And if you have a big family, it probably empties itself in no time. But if you're by yourself and you have a box of cereal, it's in a paper cardboard box. And inside it has that particular envelope that it helps, that it stores the food in. But it's best if you want it to last longer and stay crispier and not get dry not dry, but get soggy. You want to seal it in a jar. And this is where jars come in handy. Now, when you're sealing in a jar, you can use any of the old lids that you had before, as long as they're not terribly dented or broken, okay? So what we're going to do with this one here, we are going to use these particular items. You have to have these to work with the jars. And these are food saver accessories, okay? You have the wide mouth and you have the regular mouth, okay? We're going to be using the wide mouth here, okay? So we make sure this is centered on good. Take the lid, push it down, this particular thing, push it down until you see it's come down tight, okay? And so we're going to use the tip. Remember, this was on here, and we pulled it apart, and we're going to put it in here, and we're going to take the air. So now your cereal will last longer, stay crispier, and be ready for you again. And each time you use it, you can do that, okay? So let's do that. Now, you'll notice it takes longer when you have a lot more airspace in the jar. It'll be a lot quicker if this was filled to the top, okay? And so as we pull this off, you may hear a little vacuum created. Okay, again, you didn't hear it, but I did. All righty? So when you take this off, you gotta wiggle it around to get it off. And you'll notice that the seal has went down, and so you know that it's sealed. And with dry food, using a vacuum sealer, I do use my ring to store it. Now when I'm canning, which is different, I take the ring off. Here, if it comes unsealed, at least it'll keep the lid on, okay? Because temperature changes can cause that to come undone, and you don't want to lose your items on the inside, letting all that excess air get in there, okay? So that's one way of storing your cereal. When you go to the grocery store and you buy boxed food, you don't want to keep it in that container, because it's still going to allow air in and pests and bugs and things like that. So here's some pasta that I brought a box of pasta, and now that I put the rest of it in a canning jar, okay? And so we're going to do the same thing. We put a used lid, and then we're going to put this on, and then we are going to use our hand pump, just so you can see how that works. Remember, it should come from 15 to 20 psi's. Alrighty? So we're going to put it in, and we have to hold it, okay, with one hand and pump with the other hand. Now sometimes it takes a lot longer, depending on how much air is in there, and sometimes your wrist may hurt, so it's good if you can put it down and kind of pump it, pushing it on the table. It helps to do that also. That's just another way of using the brake lever. Okay? And we are at where we should be at, and as I pull this off, you should hear a little, okay? And that means it is sealed. And again, now when you use the wide mouth one, this rubber gasket mostly stays intact. But for some reason, when you use the small mouth one, this little rubber gasket tends to pull out. But if it does, and this is sealed, just put it right back in there, and you're set to go, okay? So we'll show you something with a small mouth in a minute, okay? So it's sealed, and we are going to use a ring to hold it in place. And again, now glass the light will go through it. So you just store this in a dark, cool place, in the cabinet or wherever, and especially if you're going to be using it up within a couple months, okay? So there's another way to store your food. All right, so now I'm going to show you how to use the regular mouth. And the reason I'm showing you is because sometimes, like I said, this gasket does come out, and it's okay as long as it's sealed. So we have a small container here of sage that I grew in the garden, and I dehydrated it, okay? And so again, I have a lid on, a regular size lid on top of here. You always want to make sure that your edges are clean, because that will not allow it to get a seal. Okay, so we're going to put this on top, and we're going to use the machine this time, but you can also use the brake bleeder to do the same thing. But for the sake of time, we're going to use our machine here, okay? Make sure it's good in contact well. Okay, we're going to put that on, and we're going to put the accessory. And it is now sealed. Okay, so I'm going to remove this, and you heard a little vacuum, and I'm going to remove the lid, this particular accessory. And like I said, sometimes, as you can see, that blue gasket came off. It's a common problem. I don't know why it happens, but a lot of people who use these notice that the regular mouth always happens with this. But it's okay. You can just put it back in, and it's okay to do that. Alrighty? As long as you put it on the right way. The open side goes to the top, solid side to the bottom. Okay? Now, some of the things that I seal with my accessories, and for long-term or short-term storage, this is what's done with the wide mouth, and it is potatoes, dehydrated potatoes. Now, if you notice, I have inside here, this is a silica gel container. This will help keep the moisture out. Now, you can also use some of the oxygen absorbers and put them also in the jar, but that's like double duty. Actually, some people actually can use these oxygen absorbers in the jar, and they have the ability to kind of suck in the seal themselves inside. I don't particularly do that because I want to make sure it's good and sealed, and so using the oxygen absorbers, you can put them as extra in your jar, or you can just do what I'm going to show you here, okay? So what I have here is the potatoes that are dehydrated, they're sealed, and I have some pumpkin powder. I took pumpkin that I have, dehydrated it, made it into a powder. And if you notice, again, there is a paper, either it's a cupcake or a coffee filter, to keep the powder from going up into the machine. And that's what that is in there. And then I have some freeze-dried sweet peppers, green and red, in the jar. And again, they were sealed with this particular machine. Now these are done for long-term storage. And so we can talk about this more when I get to the time we're going to be doing long-term storage. Okay? We're going to be doing some of that today. But right now, I'm going to move on to what we're doing right now. Okay? So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to look at flour. And I'll be right back to show you how that works. Okay, so you bought a bag of flour and you didn't use it all. And you don't want it to get stale, but you just may put it in the refrigerator. But still, it can get air and oxygen in it. Okay? So I'm going to show you how we seal this in a food saver bag. Now this is the newer models. They're stronger and they're a lot more, you can use them more over and over and over. Okay? So I'm just going to put this bag, let's say sometime you may have a 5-pound bag. This is just a 2-pound bag. Now, yes, I could have taken the flour out of here, but I want you to see that you can seal it right in its own container, okay? So, in this particular model, to seal it good, these particular bags, it comes with one of these. And what you do is you put it on the edge and you slide it. And it makes it, this way you don't have to keep checking the seal. It means it's a good seal. Then you have this button here, and that's what's the area where you're going to suck out the air and the oxygen, okay? Now, you can use this particular model, the handheld vacuum pump, or you can use the machine. Now, just remember, this is going to be a little bit slower, but if it's all you have, you use it. So we're going to be using the machine today, okay? And what you do is you lay it down, and you put this over the hole, hold it down with your finger, and you hit the accessory. See the air pulling out? Okay. Took a little longer than it should because this is a bigger bag. This will be good if you had a 5-pound bag of flour, okay? Now, one of the things you don't want to take the air away from is sugar. If you use any of the organic raw sugars, any type of sugar, whether it's white sugar, whatever, you don't want to do this because that will harden it and it'll be one big brick to try to use. But your flours and things like that, you can put into a bag like this, okay? So, there we go. It's all sealed. And when we need it, it's a Ziploc. We just open it up, and then we could reseal it if we don't use the whole amount up. Okay? Alrighty. So, now we're going to look at some long-term storage items. Okay? Okay, now we're going to look at some long-term storage items. Now, when I buy my sunflower seeds, I'm sorry, this is rice. And also I do it with sunflower seeds, but I have rice. And when I buy a big 25, 50-pound bag, I put it in food saver bags. And then I put them in the freezer. You don't always have to put them in the freezer. This is just one way of storing your bulk rice, okay? And so it's optional, okay? We're going to talk about other ways of storing it later on. Also, I do the same thing with my nuts. Because nuts have fat in them, they don't last as long when you put them in a bucket or a Mylar bag. And so I like to put mine in food saver bags, draw the air out, and put them in the freezer. Now, with summer harvest coming, potatoes. I took the potatoes that grew, and I cut them, I blanched them, cooled them down, and put them in a food saver bag to also take them out when I need them. Now, one of the things about some of the frozen food items, you don't want to put them in like whole. You want to put them on a sheet and let them individually freeze if you want to be able to take them out of the bag individually. If you just threw all the potatoes in one bag after they've been blanched and cooled and you take the oxygen out or the air out, it clumps up and then it's hard to get them separated. So they call this IQF, individually quick frozen. So that's what I did with these peppers. I cut them up, and these didn't have to be blanched. And I put them on a tray, and you put them in the freezer to maybe for a couple hours, and then you put them in a food saver bag. This way when you open it, you can take out what you need and seal it back. One of the things about these bags, yes, they are for long-term storage because you're going to put a seal on there, but if you cut the top off, you can still reuse it again, okay? So I'm going to show you how in this machine. Now, this machine doesn't work like all the other machines, but your food saver, just read the instructions, okay? So what we're going to do is we have these peppers, and I'm going to make sure the power's on, and this model will pull the bag in once it gets set, okay? Hear that? Now, one thing you notice, I stopped it and sealed it before it was finished. Why? Because peppers have sharp edges, and when they're frozen, and if you keep pulling the air out, you're squeezing those edges close to the bag, and it can actually cut a hole in the bag. So if you see that happening, you can actually seal it. There's a seal button on here to stop the pulling of the vacuum, and then it'll start sealing. So if you can see the seal line here, okay? So now when I want to get some out, I can cut it and then take some out and reseal it. But now, you can only do that but so many times. And that's why you can also use the bags like these, and you can use these for long-term storage, but you can open them up, take out what you need, and there's no cutting, there's no loss of space, okay? So that's just another way that you can store your frozen food longer and keep it. I have stuff that I saved for a couple of years in these bags, and there's no puffing or no sign that it has unsealed, okay? So I have shown you quite a few ways of storing your food by removing the air and vacuuming the food in the containers or the jars or the bags, and there's so many more ways. But if you have questions when you look at this video, please post them in the comment section, or if you have a comment of some way that you have done or you have used that you want to share with those who are actually looking at the comments, it'll be helpful to them too, okay? Because we're in a time where we are economically really need to take notice of what we're doing with our food, okay? And how to store it so it can last us longer. This way you can save money and have something available to you fresh when you need it, okay? So if you like this particular video, hit the like button, hit the notification button if you are interested in future videos. So please share it with others so that we can spread the good news of how to eat healthy and save money. So, bye-bye.